Hey, Yang Gang, KMO here with another Out of My Head video. And today I am joined by Douglas Lane, who's a filthy Marxist. Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. And you said that I was sharing a complaint that wealthy people fly around in private jets and private yachts to gather in luxurious resorts to talk about how the rest of us need to use less carbon. And you said elites are not the problem. And in fact, after the revolution, the elites won't even be a thing.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that the elites aren't any kind of problem, but I do think that the hyper focus on elites as elites leads people astray. We should think about the total system and how we set it up. That what are the conditions that create these elites, rather than just trying to address our demands and concerns to the elites and asking them to not act like elites but still be elites is, at the very best, what you'll have are kings that ride the bus or something. You're not going to really have a change in your own conditions that way. So
I'd be happy to see some kings on the bus. I mean, I know a lot of people are really down on this Greta Thunberg, is that her name?
mm-hmm.
But she just took not a yacht. She took a sailing vessel, from Europe or from Scandinavia to New York City to attend a meeting at the UN because she didn't want to fly and, add more carbon to the atmosphere. And, flying is disproportionate in the damage that it does. So,
Yeah. What are the stats on that? And
I don't have them at the ready.
yeah, I'm going to go to London in October. I fly about once a year, and
That's about how much I fly.
I don't generally feel particularly guilty about it.
So I have this YouTube channel, which has been, simmering in obscurity for years now. And suddenly I discovered that if I put the name Andrew Yang in a video title or description, more people watch it. And with this discovery, I have decided that, I was already doing daily YouTube uploads this year as part of my New Year's resolution. Now I'm doing daily Andrew Yang themed, daily uploads.
Yeah.
And I've just been asking all the people that I regularly talk to about Andrew Yang and universal basic income. And to a person, they have been against universal basic income, and all but one of them have been generally negative on Andrew Yang. And here we go again, rolling the dice. Doug, what's your opinion of Andrew Yang and the idea of universal basic income?
Okay, so why am I not going to be for universal basic income?
Yes.
Well, there's two reasons. One is that UBI might well, and it was originally sort of intended when Milton Friedman and others devised the plan to undermine other forms of the social safety net, other parts of.
With Andrew Yang's proposal, you have a choice. You can keep the assistance you're already getting, or you can take the $1,000 a month, but not both.
Right. Well, I understand that the proposal is different, but what would come out of it might not be exactly what Yang proposes, right? There's a process.
I'm sure it wouldn't be, but go ahead. What are the pitfalls you see? Because I've already done one video today about the pitfalls. I haven't posted it yet, but it's going on.
Well, that's the major pitfall is that it would undermine the redistribution that's based on need. I mean, the second thing is that the major dream of UBI is that you would really liberate the working class from having the necessity to work.
Yeah,
that's the
background. Wouldn't do that.
It certainly wouldn't do that.
It's not intended to. It's just
right.
Relieve the economic pressure that people are feeling right now.
Yeah, and I think it could, in the short term, for some people, relieve some economic pressure. Certainly, I know everyone I know would love to get $1,000 right now, an extra $1,000, an extra $12,000.
Some people I know who wouldn't care. It would make no difference in their lifestyle. But other people, yes, it would. It would increase their lifestyle or their income by a third.
Okay, yeah, but even people who wouldn't really care, if you said to them, "Would you like $1,000?" They would probably, if there were no strings attached, take it. Of
course.
The same way you and I might take $10 or $5 or whatever. Right?
I absolutely would take $5.
Exactly. So, obviously people would love to get some extra cash. It's not it wouldn't be a terrible thing. I don't think it would cripple the economy or anything. I don't think it's completely unrealistic. I just don't think it would accomplish what it's wanting to accomplish. And I think what I like about Yang and the fact that Yang is so popular, I mean, he's not a leading candidate. He's not likely to get the nomination, but he came seemingly from nowhere and I think like Tulsi Gabbard just got kicked out of the debate process, but
she didn't qualify for the upcoming debate.
But Yang does still qualify, right?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
So that's really interesting because Tulsi Gabbard has much more of a political track record than Yang. Yep. But Yang is talking about something that is a serious concern, and that's the impact that automation and digital technologies are having on our lives.
That's why I like him.
Yeah, that's what's important about him. What his actual prescription is probably less important than this fact here. And what I would just say is that before Andrew Yang, there was another guy who understood the impact of technology, and his name was Karl Marx.
He's not on the ticket, though. I mean, he's not.
No, he's not on the ticket. And his proposals, are a little bit more difficult to swallow, although they probably would do more to actually. And
you can't really claim that Marx could anticipate the fourth industrial revolution. Did you listen to or read that article?
Why couldn't I claim that? I'll claim it. I'm going to claim he anticipated. I don't know if he would call it the fourth industrial revolution, but he
anticipated artificial intelligence and nanotechnology and biotechnology.
Yeah, I don't know if he anticipated the specific forms that it would take, but he anticipated getting to a place technologically where we would have something called a general intelligence, a communal intelligence, that where our technological understanding would create conditions where there would have to be social change, or not that there would have to be, but where there was a potential for massive social change, and what that potential would be based on would be the free exchange, not the exchange based on market principles, but the free exchange of understanding and intelligence and access to technology amongst people, amongst the working class to start with, and then as the working class went away, basically, amongst the free people and emancipated people. So I think Marx's idea of general intelligence as the new form of the commons is in line with what people will talk about when they talk about the fourth revolution, the fourth industrial revolution.
So Andrew Yang says that that technology, and when he says technology, that's just a shorthand for information technology, machine learning, artificial intelligence, automation, that is the oil of the 21st century. And that, the one state that has instituted anything like a basic income is Alaska, a deep red state, but they have taken a portion of their oil revenues and said, we're going to give it to everybody. Every Alaskan gets a piece of this. Mm-hmm. And, Republicans, Alaskan deep red state Republicans love it. So what would be your response to Andrew Yang's claim that, look, this is something that has broad appeal, or it will once people understand the effects that it will have in their lives?
Oh, I don't think he's wrong that this has broad appeal.
In a democracy, doesn't broad appeal carry some weight?
It does, absolutely. I would say that he's pointing to a real issue. But I think we should talk about the issue of how automation is displacing workers,
please,
and as well as the question of how we redistribute wealth. I mean, okay, so the comparison being made here is between oil, which is a property, and the production of oil is and the revenue from that is sort of a state property in Alaska. Right, the state is taking a part of that. And
now that's an oversimplification, because really the Alaskan Fund is not a portion of oil revenue, but it's an investment fund that was set up with revenue from oil. But the amount of money
taxed revenue.
What's that?
Taxed revenue from oil companies, or
no? And when the fund was set up, mm-hmm. the Alaskan government. Yes, they did take some oil profits and they just bought a portfolio of stocks, bonds, whatever. There's an investment portfolio that was initially purchased with oil money, but the dividend that people get from year to year is not dependent on the, the profits that the oil companies make. It is dependent on how that investment portfolio is doing.
Right. But the original, okay, so that's interesting. So really it's not quite.
It's not a tax on oil companies.
Right. It's not a tax on oil companies, and it's not a redistribution of the oil companies' profits. The original investment portfolio, which came from oil revenue, was that coming from a state-owned oil company?
That I don't know. What I'm telling you, I have not researched recently. It's just from my general store of knowledge.
So, all right. So, I mean, right there, what you're talking about is actually just something that any state that happened to have a big lump of money that they wanted to put into the stock market or some other investment scheme, some other portfolio, could do, right? I mean, the fact that Alaska is an oil-rich state with a small population is what gave them the, this ability to invest oil revenue into a portfolio that could be redistributed in a way that had a real impact.
Yes, it was a fairly easy thing to do. It didn't, but the thing is, it happened in Alaska. It didn't happen in Vermont. It didn't happen in Massachusetts or California or Washington State.
It would have happened in Vermont or California if they had had a small population and huge oil revenues, and they wanted to bring people to bad conditions to work for, an industry that was very profitable but grueling. I mean, it's not easy for Alaska.
A basic premise of Andrew Yang's argument is that machine learning and information technology are in the process of generating enormous amounts of wealth. And if we don't take proactive steps, that wealth is going to accumulate in a very small portion of the population, thus increasing the already gross disparity between rich and poor in this society. And this is something that needs to be addressed proactively before it gets, even more grossly disproportionate than it already is.
I don't think Andrew Yang's wrong about digital technology generating a huge amount of wealth, but I think we have to. I really think Marx is very helpful here, because Marx distinguishes between actual wealth, sensuous stuff, buildings, food stuff, commodities that we use,
armaments,
and the value that they hold, which we measure in money, right? And the money is a measure of the labor time invested in production, whereas the useful stuff is just useful stuff. That's real wealth, right? And the strange thing about capitalist production is that the faster you produce stuff, the less value it has, because the less labor time has gone into it. So digital technologies give us the capacity to increase production and the time we spend producing things. And decrease the time we spend producing things, right? So digital technology sets up conditions where for some industries there's massive profits, but overall there's less and less need for people working, which means also that there's less and less money being produced overall in the economy. The economy goes into crisis. This is one of the reasons why we had the economic crisis of 2008, was because of a declining rate of profit. It got expressed through the financial system. It got expressed through mortgages, but the underlying condition was this declining rate of profit. So the difficulty here is that the digital technologies are going to create wealth, but they very well could also create economic crisis, not only unemployment, but bankruptcies, recessions. These things will come along with the expansion of the power of the speed up of production through digital technology. This is why Marx thinks that the potential to overcome the kind of relationships that set up capitalist production will arise as our technology gets more and more effective and powerful, is because there's this contradiction between the economic value that's produced in production and the real wealth. So we can have a society filled with real wealth. And
I can tell you that 90% of the Yang Gang members watching this, their eyes have glazed over. They are getting angry.
Well, that's their problem, because look, they're these people. That's shocking to me, because these are people who love the technocratic Yang with his technical fix. Well, I'm talking about something very technical, which is the way the economy works. If they can't follow along, then they need to, drink some coffee and pay attention. This is this
So,
isn't on me for them to try to entertain them. This is on them to understand what their guy Yang is talking about and the real problems that they're facing.
I've been accused of being a crypto Bernie bro who's claiming to be a Yang supporter, but really I'm bringing on all these people who don't like universal basic income, and I'm a villain,
Okay.
villain for bringing on people like you and amplifying your voice.
Well, look, I'm not saying that Bernie Sanders is, I'm not advocating Bernie Sanders in this conversation. I mean, I happen to.
You called him a left gatekeeper in the previous electoral cycle.
Yeah, I did. And I don't.
Explain what that means. I don't think a lot of people who are watching this are familiar with that phrase. What's a left gatekeeper?
Well, okay. I don't think he's consciously a left gatekeeper, but what it means is someone who will present a reformist position as if it's a revolutionary one. That's how I'm thinking of it now. Anyway, I don't know what I said before, but there was a need for dramatic change, especially again after the economic crisis of 2008. It was becoming obvious that there was something fundamentally wrong in our system, and by being the furthest to the left candidate with a set of policies that really were a compromise in the 30s and 40s, by bringing back FDR and the New Deal as the new most radical position out there. He was a left gatekeeper. He was lowering the horizon of people's expectations. But that wasn't really his action. He was more of a symptom of that horizon already being lowered. I mean, this is the limit of the left's vision today, is to return to the New Deal or to Lyndon Johnson's Great Society or something, which again, like, I'm not against it. Like, I'm not against UBI in the short term, because some people would benefit, and I'm not against Medicare for all or those kinds of schemes to redistribute the wealth either, because people would benefit in the short term. But I'm just saying, if you want to get to the fundamental problem, you're going to have to think more deeply. And I think Yang, by addressing industrialization and automation, rather than just talking about billionaires and bankers, is getting to something more fundamental than Sanders is.
All right.
So I will.
So there, Yang. I brought on a Marxist who said something nice about Andrew Yang.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. As far as I can see, there's really three positions represented by the umpteen Democratic candidates. One is neoliberal business as usual. That's Joe Biden, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The other is a hard shift to the left to a sort of, New Deal, sort of expand government programs, expand the power of government institutions, invest a lot of public money in things like, clean energy and a jobs guarantee, that sort of thing, Medicare for all. And then Andrew Yang's position, to me, I have to admit, is a pretty libertarian position. I mean, his one of his catchphrases is human-centered capitalism, and he makes no bones about the fact that he is a capitalist. He advocates capitalism. He thinks that capitalism creates wealth, and I think you would agree that capitalism creates,
absolutely
wealth. No,
tremendous amounts of wealth.
So those are the three positions on offer, and then there's Donald Trump. So of those four, 4 more years of Donald Trump, back to the business as usual neoliberal Democrat position, a hard shift to the left, or a modification to make human-centered capitalism, to create human-centered capitalism as opposed to just vicious, social Darwin capitalism. Of those four, what's your preference? Because those are what's on offer. No, there are no Marxists. No Marxists will be on the ballot.
I understand. You don't have to remind me there are no Marxist candidates. And if there were,
what's your preference?
Yeah. Okay. Well, my knee-jerk preference is for the hard left, that Sanders. I mean, just, like, if you ask me who I'm likely to vote for, I'm likely to vote for Bernie Sanders, despite the fact that I said nice things about Yang.
How about Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably. I mean, I like her spirit and everything. I like how she gives it to the bankers, but I do feel like that whole focus on the billionaire class and the whole focus on the, like, Main Street versus Wall Street, that kind of talk is not entirely wrong, but it also it misleads people, because the truth is, in our system today, if Wall Street falls apart, so does Main Street. We don't have a system where we can live without the financial sector. We don't have a system where we can live without capitalist production. And that means we don't have a system where we can live without people trying to maximize profits. That is what sets up our society today. And to act as though you can demand that capitalists think about other things than maximizing profits, and not be outcompeted, I think is a mistake. And I just think it's misguided. But having said that, the spirit of Warren, and especially even more so Sanders, and Sanders' support for working class struggles, the way he's been involved in strikes. I mean, he promotes the struggles of striking workers, to me is more promising than Yang's technocratic pro-capitalist libertarian approach, which is more top-down. But I don't think that simply saying, I like workers and here, let's support this strike, is going to get us to the kind of solutions that we need. So the real truth is that if I'm going to just be completely principled, I wouldn't get involved in this upcoming election. It's not where the change is going to have to come from.
You're going to write in Karl Marx?
Huh?
Are you going to write in Karl Marx?
I'll write in Karl Marx. No, I don't know. I'll probably vote for a fish again.
Okay.